The more unworthy you feel, the easier it is to control you. That's what religion revolves around. So guilt becomes the business model for spiritual survival. That is exactly what goes on in the religious world. But here's the thing, Christ shattered that business model the moment he declared it is finished. So no priest, no man of God can monopolize it anymore. So now, number 18, why politics should matter more to you than religion. Religion builds cathedrals, mega churches, but Christ builds people. You see, religious leaders measure success by the size of their churches, the grandeur of their temples, marble floors, gold crosses, mega structures, mega churches, they all look impressive. But inside, the people in there can still be spiritually bankrupt in all those mega churches. And that is because religion decorates walls but neglects souls. But Jesus never built any single physical temple. He built lives. He built the heart of people. And when I say lives, we talk about the heart of the woman at the well, the mind of Peter, who later became a very strong pillar, the soul of Mary Magdalene. These are very strange people that their lives were completely turned around. And that is what Jesus was all about, building lives. So, and at the end of the day, his disciples became living stones, a spiritual house carrying his presence everywhere they go. So that is to say, Christ's government is measured in people, not in buildings. You get the point? And that takes me straight to number 19. Religion thrives on guilt, but Christ governs by grace. In other words, religion uses, guilt as a leash. The more unworthy you feel, the easier it is to control you. That is the whole essence of religion. That's what religion revolves around. Men of God use guilt to keep you worshippers dependent on confessions, rituals, and sacrifices, So guilt becomes the business model for spiritual survival. That is exactly what goes on in the religious world. But here's the thing, Christ shattered that business model the moment he declared it is finished. So at that point, forgiveness is now free. So no priest, no man of God can monopolize it anymore. But that is not to say that grace ignores sin. No. Grace does not ignore sin, but it breaks the power of sin and floods your soul with love. So where guilt enslaves you in the previous times, grace empowers you now. Where fear manipulates you, grace transforms you. So grace is the government and guilt is the religion. Hope it's making more sense now. Stay with me. And that takes me to number 20. Religion says, stay in the temple. Christ says, go into the world. You see, religion locks God inside buildings. It teaches that holiness is only found in sacred grounds, like churches, mosques, shrines, altars, and stuff like that, But Christ, he broke that chains completely when he said, go into the world and make disciples of all nations. At that point, he decentralized God's presence. His kingdom is no longer limited to Jerusalem, Rome, or Mecca, or your mega churches. It is alive wherever his spirit moves, be it homes, schools, government, marketplaces, everywhere. So what is Christ's vision? It's not to fill mega churches, but to fill the earth with his glory. Religion gathers inside, but Christ sends people outside. So when religion tells you to stay confined, Christ is telling you, move, build, transform, conquer. And that's what we are going to be talking about in the next episode. which will expose how religion enslaves with fear, while Christ empowers with resurrection. So welcome to this episode where we'll talk about how religion enslaves people with fear of death, but Christ rules with the promise of resurrection. And this is number 21. Religion holds power by scaring people with death. Fear of eternal punishment becomes a leash, so the entire doctrine survives on threat of fire rather than promise of life. But Christ, he conquered death. He didn't just preach resurrection, he demonstrated it. His kingdom offers hope. That is to say, the grave is not the end. Life extends beyond the strings of death. So while religion uses fear to enslave you, resurrection empowers you, which takes me straight to number 22 now. Religion protects tradition, but Christ establishes truth. And what is that truth? Traditions can give identity, but when those identity overrides truth, they become chains. The Pharisees clung to rules, washing, sacrifices, exclusions, even when all of those things contradicted God's heart. And what did Christ do? He broke traditions to uphold truth. And let me list a couple of them for you, so that you can understand what I'm saying. Okay. He healed on the Sabbath. He touched the untouchable. He dined with sinners. That was not rebellion. That was revelation, which teaches us that truth liberates where tradition enslaves. So tradition can cage, but truth always frees. Now number 23. Religion seeks control, but Christ gives dominion. Stay with me. Religious leaders guard power jealously. They don't joke with power. All of them, not exception. They centralize authority, demand obedience, and keep followers dependent. So religion thrives on control, convincing you that you cannot approach God without an intermediary. That's where you have the likes of intercessors. But Christ, he restored dominion to humanity. He made his disciples co-heads, kings, and priests in his kingdom. So in his kingdom, power is multiplied, not monopolized. He doesn't shrink men into servants. He enlarged them into rulers of destiny. So while religion controls, Christ empowers. So when religion tries to cage you with fear, tradition, and control, Christ says, stand, rise, and claim your dominion. And we are going to be exposing in the next episode how religion sells blessings while Christ gives inheritance, and why government fears God's kingdom. So now 24. So I want you to pay very close attention in this very episode now, because it's going to hit hard. It will reveal how religion sells blessings while Christ gives inheritance. When religion is corrupted, it commercializes the sacred. Blessings are packed and sold. Stuff like anointing oil, holy water, and paid prayers. And who suffers? The poor. They became victims in the spiritual marketplace. Christ refused this system. He said, freely you have received, freely give. And that is because in his kingdom, blessings are not bought, they are inherited. You are not a customer, you are a child, not buying favor, but walking on birthright. Religion makes you a buyer, but Christ makes you an heir. And that takes me to number 25. Religion fears government. And guess what? Christ is the government. Religious leaders negotiate survival by bending to political rulers. If you don't really understand how this system works, you won't get what I'm saying. So I want you to pay very close attention. They seek permits, privileges, alliances, because their existence depends on earthly throne. All religion, their existence depends on earthly throne. I want to say that again so that it sinks. But Christ, he never bowed to Caesar. When they asked him about taxes, he pointed beyond Rome's authority because his kingdom is not subject to parliament or presidencies. He is the government, eternal, unshakable, and supreme. So every throne, every presidency, every palace will bow to him. That is his government. Religion fears Caesar, but Christ outranks him. Now you see what made him dangerous to the religious leaders, which brings me to the last in this episode. Religion dies with time, but Christ's government has no end. Religion rises and falls. Empires have official religions today and forgotten gods, small letter gods, tomorrow. Systems based on rituals, leaders, institutions, all of those systems, all eventually crumble. But Christ's kingdom is eternal. The prophet said it, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. You will find that in Isaiah 9. So his government is not seasonal. No. It doesn't run a 4-year or 8-year term government. No. And it is not historical either. It is forever. His rule is as fresh in the 21st century as it was in the 1st century. So while religion fades, Christ reigns still. So I've said all of that to say this: religions end, but Christ reigns eternal. So when religion sells, fears, and fades, Christ gives inheritance, rules eternally, and commands authority. So I want to thank you for staying this long. But if you want to get a full package in detail from reason number 1 to 30, get the book. It explains everything explicitly in details. 30 reasons why politics matters more to you than religion. Get the book and thank me later. See me in my next video. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do well to click the subscribe button. It's still a young channel, so please do well to subscribe to the channel and click the notification button so that once any new bombshell drops, you will be the first to get notified. I'll be back.